Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm alone. As you can hear, Alex is not here this week as he is off celebrating his something birthday. I don't know. He's old as shit, but that's okay. You get me this week, your host with the most, as we continue on This Week in Geek's 17th year of podcasting and broadcasting. As I was finding out last week from our good friend of the show, Brent, you may know him as the Closet Geek Show, we were found out that we are not the longest running podcast in Canada. We are definitely in the top 5, I would say. We're definitely number 2. There's another guy who predates us by about 2 years. So yeah, I still haven't had a chance to reach out to that guy, but I probably should at some point in the future, just because I think it'd be kind of an interesting conversation to reflect upon how the podcasting landscape has changed since 2005. So anyway, guys, so this show is going to be a little bit different than how you're used to. It's going to be me solo hosting, and we're only going to have 2 reviews during this particular show. We're going to have one with myself and one with Alex, and then news and weird news is just kind of going to flow one into each other. Just because this week got tremendously busy, and it's just kind of a slow week in certain regards for getting some content. But I know Alex has been hard at work at some other reviews, and I think the embargo lifts on some of his stuff that he's working on fairly soon. And I didn't want to just flood you guys with some other content, but I do have some really cool stuff cooking up. I know I got something from Alex. I've got a couple of G Fuel flavors you should definitely be checking out. I'm going to be reviewing those later on in the show. And I got some RPG stuff I'm currently working on, which some of it's really, really exciting. Looking forward to talking about the Aliens Building Better Worlds from Free League Publishing. I got some stuff coming up from Modifius. I got some stuff from, I think, I'm trying to think who else I've got stuff from. I got some stuff from Renegade Game Studios. I talked about briefly during the holiday gift guide, but I would love to give a more in-depth review of that when I get a chance. And speaking of that, GriffCon is going to be coming up here in Guelph in just about a month and a half, I guess. It's going to be in April. And I'm just starting to plan that out. I'm just pitching my first con game right now. And hopefully, like I said, I'll get that written up today or tomorrow. And I'm going to continue on with, I think, Transformers. Last year, I did a Autobot campaign where I did kind of a precursor to the 1986 movie as a what-if scenario. And basically what happens before the Autobot shuttle takes off to land at Autobot City. So, you know, obviously Ironhide and Prowl and Ratchet and all them still die. But what was happening on Cybertron? And eventually it ends with them hacking Trypticon as he was being infused with Dark Energon. And they bit Megatron in half. And it was an incredibly cool campaign. I had a lot of fun playing with those guys there. I think my players were Nathan, Sean, and John, I think, were the people that I played with. I remember Nathan because he had a very interesting character called Shadow Striker. And the other gentleman, John, was a very interesting type of guy. I think he played like a tree trimming truck of some type. It was very interesting. He knew a lot of stuff, but it was a lot of fun. So yeah, this year will be a little bit different as I run a Decepticon campaign. So I'm still in the midst of writing that. Speaking of writing, still doing my stuff for Star Trek, which I'm hoping to get stuff finished by the end of the month. I've been grinding out on that. And I guess should probably just go into what I've been doing over the past week. And a lot of this week has just been just trying to get in a really good headspace this week. Because, you know, the winter blues, we're finally seeing the sun here in Guelph, which is kind of nice. Actually had a chance to wear my sunglasses outside for the first time this year. Although now I'm dealing with more problems with my wheelchair. I'm having multiple just dumb things break on it. But that's just a lot of wear and tear. Some of the stuff I've had to replace on my own just because the disability support program that I use doesn't necessarily cover everything. Although I really should consider asking about this one thing now that I kind of think about it. But we'll have to kind of wait and see. But anyway, enough about that. So I had something kind of messed up happen to me this week. Messed up in a good but funny way. So, as you guys know, I go to the Guelph Storm games and I always record a TikTok, talk about my week, my experiences there, and reflect upon having an OHL hockey team in my town. Something I thoroughly love. I've met a lot of cool people from the organization over the years. And this week, or within the last couple of weeks, I've announced my candidacy to run for the board of directors. I don't want the big head honcho job, because no, but I want to do stuff on their social media. I want to build a stronger town, a stronger community, and just do more, make this place feel more like home for me and everybody else who comes out to the games. I've had a lot of really good responses, but I had something kind of interesting happen. So I got approached by In-Rink Entertainment this past week, and this guy comes up and goes, "Hey Mike, how would you like to be on the Jumbotron?" I'm like, "Okay, sure. What do I got to do?" He's like, "Well, how well do you know country music?" And I'm thinking, oh boy, did you pick the wrong guy? But he's like, "Don't worry, it'll be really, really easy." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So, all right. He's like, "All right, we'll come get you 10 minutes into the second period." And I did post this up on social media. I actually posted the video if you follow my Instagram, which is @BirdmanDodd. And they had me try to sing the song "I Got Friends in Low Places." Again, I have no idea what the hell this is. So, in front of almost 5,000 people, they're playing me a song of the clip, or a clip of the song, and all I can squeak out is, "I don't know." And I got razzed by a few people. I mean, all in good fun. But still, it's like, I don't know country music, man. Like, do I look like a guy who digs this? Like, and yeah, I come from a pretty blue-collar country music loving area where I grew up. But cold day in hell before I willingly choose to listen to country music. It's not my jam. If that's what you enjoy, party on, I'm sure. But yeah, so that wasn't particularly great. But still, it was pretty cool. I got to be up on the Jumbotron, and that's the second time. I actually got picked to be on the Kiss Cam last year, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, so thanks, Guelph Storm. I was embarrassed, but hey, it all worked out in the end. Let me see what else has happened this week. I don't know if you guys follow my social media. I also have the TikTok that I mentioned earlier. So I went to the mall and had a really messed up encounter with a local kind of resident, and I posted about it on TikTok, on Facebook, and on Reddit, and I got a lot of really, really good responses from people, and that was really, really, really heartwarming to hear that, and the fact that most people are, for by and large, a great and generous people here in Guelph. But it just really struck me as odd that this even happened. So hopefully this kid in his infinite wisdom has maybe learned the error of his ways, but I kind of doubt it, because let's be real here, kids are stupid. But it is what it is. So I don't know. That kind of made my week kind of suck, but then everything else just kind of balanced it out. So that's just kind of the way it is. This week on the show, I'm recording some stuff with David Denoyer from Do You Even Movie. We're going to be talking about some stuff that you'll hear later on, probably in the month, if not early next, because we're trying to do a lot of pre-recorded stuff. So there's always something in the back catalog. I'm back recording with Aaron and Alex. We recorded something last week, which was a lot of fun, which you'll hear probably later on this year. But yeah, we just got a lot of good stuff coming up. I know Alex will be back on the show this week. And then, yeah. So anyway, guys, we're going to take a small break here on This Week in Geek. And what you're going to hear is probably one of my reviews right now. And then we're going to kick into Alex's reviews at the end of the weird news segment, and I will bring us back to close us out. So thank you for listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I've been your host, Mike the Birdman, and we will be back right after this.
My apologies for the wait, Lord Frieza. The Ginyu Force has assembled.
How excellent. I'm expecting great things from you and the Ginyu Force.
Thank you, Lord Frieza. Honestly, it is truly an honor to serve you again. Shall I perform my dance of joy to express how delighted I am? If you like, I can perform a special version of the dance. The dance of joy!
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here to talk about something amazing from our friends at gfuel.com. I bring you a pair of reviews, but they are paired together, united by evil and the will of the Emperor of the Universe himself, Frieza. We're going to be taking a look at some of the Dragon Ball Z inspired flavors today. We're going to be looking at the Ginyu Force. That's right, Captain Ginyu and his cronies of Berter, Jace, Raccoon, and Goldo. This is the remastered pineapple flavor, but we're also going to be looking at Frieza himself, the evil Emperor, and this is a G Fuel flavor that is cranberry, cherry, raspberry, and strawberry combined into one. And we're going to be talking about the Ginyu Force first because, hey, who doesn't love going, "We are the Ginyu Force," and doing a ridiculous Sentai pose? Because, hey, it's just, if you're a 90s kid, hell, if you're a 2000s kid, you know this goofy stuff. And it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And everybody has the superhero pose. Even Gohan, when he was the great Saiyaman, did his own version of it. And if you play Dragon Ball Z Fighters, I think there's like some lines of dialogue in there where they talk about the weakness of his pose. Or maybe I'm thinking Xenoverse. I don't know. Either way, the remastered pineapple flavor for Ginyu, this is a pineapple flavor. And it's definitely pineapple-y. It's almost a little too artificial, if I'd say, but it's not bad. It's not my favorite. I will openly come out and say that. It's got this kind of a weird sweet aftertaste, but that's the thing though. With me and pineapple, I love fresh pineapple. Like whenever I go for breakfast at this local breakfast spot, I always get a side of fruit, and more often than not, I get fresh pineapple. And maybe I'm just used to that. Like I love pineapple juice when I'm sick, so it's different to have a artificial pineapple flavor here. So again, this one I think might be sort of a thing. Maybe if you get like a BOGO sale, and if you like pineapple, this wouldn't be the worst one in the world to maybe give a whirl to. Or if they ever do like smaller tubs like the Gohan one, or if they ever do like single servings. In fact, I'm kind of surprised they haven't made like Dragon Ball Z single servings and just call them sensu beans, and they're different flavors from the Dragon Ball Z lineup. Hey, if you use this G Fuel, just throw me something cool. But seriously, I think the Ginyu Force flavor, if you like pineapple, you probably will like this. Like I say, it's a little more artificial than what I'm maybe used to, but I think it's worth definitely trying as part of a BOGO. But I'm going to say probably only for hardcore pineapple lovers right off the hop if you're going to pick up any of the G Fuel flavors that are currently in stock. One that tends to go out of stock fairly frequently, so always keep an eye out and have your notifications turned on, and make sure you have the G Fuel official app to track this too. There's this flavor called the Evil Emperor. This is inspired by Frieza. This is a berry medley. And this is, like I was mentioning earlier, this is cranberry, cherry, raspberry, and strawberry. I love berries. Always have. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect from a Frieza flavor. I was really hoping this would be a remastered grape. It's not. But this is actually a little bit better. And there is a collector's box for this too. Currently sold out. But again, watch the app. You never know when this is gonna come back in the stock. This is wicked, really. That's a nice mixture of flavors. It is so refreshing that this is probably in my top 10 flavors. I may even be so bold as to say top 7 for me. Like, I'm really, really impressed with this. And Frieza being one of the most iconic bad guys in Dragon Ball, and I'd say pretty much in like anime, this is a great tribute to him and the Frieza Force. I'm trying to figure what other flavors they could do for Dragon Ball. I think a Broly flavor, maybe do like a remastered green apple for that might be kind of fun. I would see, actually, I would not be surprised if G Fuel does a Vegito and Gogeta, and that's like a fusion flavor of something. Again, I'm just full of ideas here, guys. Let me know. Super Saiyan God, you could do spicy lemonade for that one if you want to do something with your whole demonade thing. But seriously, I think the Evil Emperor, it's wonderful. So you really need to keep an eye on this when it comes back in the stock, especially when G Fuel does all of their BOGO sales. There's some fantastic stuff coming up from these guys. I got a lot more flavors to be trying out. We're going to be taking a look into the realm of the horror movies really soon. I got the Dream Demon. I've got the Jason flavor coming. I'm going to try and get some of the Chucky stuff. It's going to be awesome. And again, I really like this stuff because it really helped me in my personal journey to get off of pop and soda, because not having sugar really helps. It definitely helps there. A lot of it's hydrating. And I find myself just a lot more peppy during the day when I have a recommended dose of G Fuel. And again, I always support my favorite content creators, and that being Fooya, so Fooya. You can use that for a percentage off of your order. Or my other favorite content creator, and this is specifically a Dragon Ball guy. This name is named Burkhole. Use code CAC, and you can get some additional bucks off of your order. So be sure to be checking this out. So I'm going to go back and serve under Emperor Frieza, because we have to go to Planet Namek and collect the Dragon Balls. So I will be back next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
His power, it's amazing. What? Frieza has a new form.
I know gold's a bit gauche, but I wanted to ensure you grasp my new position atop the pecking order. And for the sake of your feeble mind, let's keep the name simple as well. We'll call this Golden Frieza. Of course, I hope you've realized this iteration has far more to it than a shimmering new facade.
I noticed. To be honest, you're more powerful than I was expecting as well, Frieza, and it's definitely got my heart beating a few ticks faster.
This is going to be quite the epic battle, my old nemesis.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek.
News.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. Well, thanks to me for that review and our friends over at gfuel.com for sending over those awesome flavors of the Dragon Ball Z franchise. Okay, so we're going to start things off on kind of a sad note here. And this news hit me when I was on the bus a couple of days ago. So, as you may have heard, actor Carl Weathers from The Rocky and Mandalorian and many, many other movies has passed away at the age of 76. So, I'm going to read you the article from comicbook.com, and then we're going to talk about this for just a couple of minutes here. So Carl Weathers, known for his work in the Rocky franchise, The Mandalorian, and more, has passed away at the age of 76. Weathers' family shared the tragic news in a statement saying Weathers died peacefully in his sleep on Thursday, February 1st. Weathers has been a fan favorite throughout the course of his ever-expansive 50-year career, which he appeared in over 75 films and television products. Our thoughts are with the Weathers family and friends at this extremely difficult time, and you can read the full statement from the family below via Deadline, which I will read to you right now. We are deeply saddened to announce the passing of Carl Weathers, his family said in a statement. He died peacefully in his sleep on Thursday, February 1st, 2024. Carl was an exceptional human being who lived an extraordinary life. Throughout his contributions to film, television, and the arts and sports, he left an indelible mark and is recognized worldwide and across generations. He's a beloved brother, father, grandfather, partner, and friend. Excuse me. Weathers is well known for several roles, but one of his most iconic is the role of Apollo Creed in the Rocky franchise. Weathers was Rocky's first opponent in the long-running series, and then would return for Rocky 2 for a rematch, and in Rocky 3 to help Rocky in his next fight. The character would then return in Rocky 4 for one last appearance, but the legacy created would carry on to this day. That's because in recent years, Apollo Creed's son would get his own trilogy of films, in Creed starring Michael B. Jordan. Rocky would then play the role in those films, much like Apollo did in the later Rocky movies, with Rocky eventually mentioning Jordan's Adonis Creed. Weathers is also known for his roles in Predator, Happy Gilmore, and a host of appearances in popular shows like Chicago PD, Law & Order, Arrested Development, Psych, ER, and more. Most recent, though, he's been a part of the Star Wars universe in The Mandalorian as fan favorite Greef Karga. Karga had quite the journey over the course of the show's 3 seasons and has continued to have a significant in Mando's journey. Our thoughts are with the Weathers family and friends. The first time I saw Carl Weathers, much like many people of my generation, and probably entirely too young, was the Predator movies where he played Dylan. He was that famous meme where, like, Dylan, you son of a bitch, and they do the manliest handshake that has ever happened in the history of mankind. And it was, just one of those characters, and he's like, hey, Dutch, are you getting too soft, pushing pencils and all that? And he was a badass character. I didn't see him in the Rocky movies till much, much later. But honestly, probably my most experience with Carl Weathers was his role in Happy Gilmore, where he played Chubbs, who was a guy who saw the potential in Adam Sandler's character, where he had one hand who was bitten off by an alligator. And unfortunately, Chubbs passes away by being knocked out a window when Happy's like, he got your hand, but I got his head. And it freaks him out and he dies. And that's where I mostly remember him from. But I got to thinking, I was having a conversation with one of my best friends, Liam, this past week. And I said, the thing that I love about Carl Weathers is you had a guy who could go from playing a deathly serious character, but with an air of charisma and charm, to something completely ridiculous. And what I mean by that is, you look at his character in the Rocky movies, cocky, but he's very sure, but he's very serious about himself too. But he knows he's the best there ever is, the best there ever was. But he had a charm about him. And then you get Predator, again, over the top, goofy action, but it worked. And then you see him play a role in Arrested Development, where I don't know whether this is true, but I would like to think Carl had a pretty good sense of humor about himself. He said he would only take the role to play himself if his character would be incredibly cheap. And you're like, what the hell do you mean? So there's a gag where he's trying to teach acting lessons to Tobias. And he's talking about soup bones. And Tobias is cleaning his plate at like a buffet or something. And he's like, hey, you're not going to throw that out, are you? He's like, yeah, why? He's like, there's a lot of good meat on that bone. You put that in some water and you let that stew for a while. You got yourself the beginnings of a stew. And he's like, Mr. Weathers, I paid you $1,100 for acting lessons. When are we going to talk about that? He's like, okay, let me tell you about acting. And he goes on, he's like, when I did this Showtime movie, blah, 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 I'd never touched my per diem. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I went to craft services every day and I took all the vegetables and I made myself stew and lunches. And he's like, I'd like my money back. And just, it's ridiculous. And as far as I know, he kept doing that throughout the course of the show. It's been a really long time since I've seen Arrested Development. But I was really happy when he showed up in The Mandalorian season 1 as Greef Karga. And I will never forget the end of that season where he's like, baby, do the magic hand thing. And just when Grogu waves back at Greef and Greef's like, it was so good. So, Carl, thank you for the laughs. Thank you for being a part of pop culture history. And I'm going to play a little section from my favorite role of his. And after this, we will come back with some more interesting news from the world of entertainment and weird news as we continue through this show. So here is something a little bit special from Mr. Carl Weathers.
Shut up, Happy. Don't feel bad about me. I got my hand back, see? We've only just begun to live. White lace and promises, a kiss for luck and we're on our way.
All right, we are back here on This Week in Geek, and Again, thank you, Carl, for all the wonderful laughs and memories throughout the years. You will never be forgotten. Okay, so we're going to move on to something interesting. I kind of never expected this bit of entertainment news. Certainly casting news I didn't quite suspect. And these two stories are related to the Last of Us franchise. So Catherine O'Hara has joined The Last of Us Season 2. Filming on The Last of Us Season 2 is getting underway, and we got some fresh casting news this week. Catherine O'Hara from Beetlejuice 2 is in talks to star in Season 2. It's now officially been confirmed. Catherine O'Hara confirmed the rumor in a chat with Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live this week. You can watch the full interview with O'Hara and Bryan Cranston if you want to go seek that out. She says, my son is also a set dresser on the show. The lineup of directors for Season 2 includes Mark Malloy from Succession and also The Menu, alongside Nina Lopez Corrado, who did Perry Mason, Stephen Williams, from The Watchmen, Kate Herron from Loki. They also joined returning directors Peter Hoare, Craig Mazin, and Neil Druckmann. The cast of new faces for The Last of Us also includes Caitlin Dever as Abby, Young Mazzino as Jesse, and Isabella Marseille as Dina, all characters from the video game. The second season of HBO's The Last of Us will adapt the video game sequel, The Last of Us Part 2, but don't expect the game's events to be contained to just one season. It's likely the sequel's sprawling multi-character story will span the timeline out over at least 2 seasons. HBO's The Last of Us takes place 20 years after modern civilization has been destroyed by a has been destroyed. Joel, a hardened survivor, is hired to smuggle Ellie, a 14-year-old girl, out of an oppressive quarantine zone. What starts as a small job soon becomes a brutal, heartbreaking journey as they both must traverse across the U.S. and depend on each other for survival. Pedro Pascal from The Mandalorian stars as the series Joel. Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones stars as Ellie. Gabriel Luna from Terminator Dark Fate plays Tommy, the brother of Pascal's Joel. Storm Reed, Anna Torv, Jeffrey Pierce, Nick Offerman, Merle Dangridge, blah, 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 also star in the first season of the hit series. Which we were going to talk about this on TWIG last year when the first season finished. It's an amazing show. Catherine O'Hara, again, not who I would necessarily have envisioned in this series, but I was surprised how well other characters have pulled it off. Like, I love Gabriel Luna. I think he plays a great Tommy. Pedro Pascal, what more do I need to say about Daddy Mando? Bella Ramsey, I think, surprised a lot of people in the show. And I think the best episode of that show was definitely the Nick Offerman episode, exploring the romance between those two characters. And I think it's one of the best episodes of television ever. And if you disagree with me, that's fine, but I think you're wrong. Yeah, and it was just a beautiful hour of TV, tragic as all things are in The Last of Us, but definitely a way to make the character more likable from the video game. So I wonder who Catherine O'Hara is going to be playing from the game. I have got a feeling maybe one of the Seraphites, if I had to guess. I was playing the part 2, obviously, for the remaster for review a couple of weeks ago, and I started looking at some of the characters who she... And I'm kind of thinking who else she could play. Maybe... I think they've already... they already introduced the wife of Tommy. I'm trying to think if she could play anybody from Jackson, but I don't know. I want to say maybe Seraphite, maybe from the WLF. Maybe she's one of the other Washington people or something, or maybe they'll expand out the role somewhere. But I got a feeling she's going to be one of the Seraphites. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I know when the casting news came out that they cast the person for Abby, I'm thinking, oh man, you're in for a world of fun. Because people are ridiculous, and as much as I love this video game, it is certainly no reason to, harass the crap out of people, but, people are weird and stupid, and they're going to do weird and stupid things, and, well, what more can I say? That definitely fits the bill of weird and stupid. But yeah, like The Last of Us Part 1, it is one of the best shows I've seen in a really, really, really long time. And not just because I have a connection to the video game. I think it's because it proves, in my opinion, that you can take a piece of established media, which is already considered a masterpiece, and you can tweak it just enough so it's a little bit better. Yeah, there are a few things I might have changed, but for the most part, I'm very, very happy with it. I can't wait to see what happens with the sequel. I'm not going to tell you anything what happens in that game. Yes, the game is years old. Yes, I could do spoilers, but I'm not going to do that to you because I think it's one of those things that is best experienced for yourself. And this isn't a case of like Snape kills Dumbledore, because I think, well, I guess the statute of limitations ran out for that in like 2010, I guess, considering I think that happened in 2007? I don't know. Either way, it's an old thing and who gives a shit. But I think because it's still so raw and a lot of people still haven't played that game, it hasn't reached the cultural zeitgeist of, hey, everybody knows X. I mean, if you're in the gamer community, yeah, you know what happens. But if you're the casual watcher / viewer, I'm not going to do that to you. I think it's best you go into The Last of Us Part 2 as unspoiled as possible. And hey, if you don't have the game, I highly recommend you grab it on PlayStation 5 right now. It is fantastic. But let's move on to more Last of Us Part 2 news. And this involves the video game, surprisingly. So this article comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. The Last of Us Part 2 actor says fans threatened her son. Laura Bailey said harassment taught her to, quote, keep a distance. Anyone who was on the internet around the release of The Last of Us Part 2 knows it was a bad time. But while we as fans and writers saw the vitriolic backlash unfold in real time, it was far worse for the creative team who was directly targeted. Laura Bailey, who played the secret second protagonist Abby, has opened up about her experience with harassment during the game's release cycle, and how some disgruntled fans threatened her son, who was 2 years old at the time, because they didn't like her character. If you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, Abby, I guess I'm going to break my own rule. I literally just said. Abby kills Joel, the protagonist of the first game, as part of a years-long revenge plot for the death of her father. Subset of fans famously lashed out about viewing it as a, quote, betrayal of sorts by developer Naughty Dog. This backlash extended to the cast of the game, including Bailey in the documentary Groundbreaking 2, The Making of The Last of Us Part 2, premiered on February 2nd. Bailey tearfully spoke about death threats that she received. Some of these messages were passed along to the proper channels to ensure that Bailey wasn't in any immediate danger. Among them, threats were directed at her son, who was born during Part 2's development. In a segment of the documentary focused on the backlash surrounding leaked cutscenes ahead of the launch, Bailey says this taught her to, quote, keep a distance from the public. Bailey talked publicly about the online abuse she received around the launch of The Last of Us Part 2 back in 2020, and even posted screenshots of some of what was sent her way. That included one message that was directed at her son and parents. This level of harassment has become so commonplace in the video game industry, and public-facing women in this space are most often the target. Just earlier this year, Spider-Man 2's face model Stephanie Taylor Jones had to speak out against people stalking her by leaving her voicemails at her day job and making her feel, quote, unsafe. Seeing as people treated Bailey for playing a character she didn't write naturally makes me worry about The Last of Us fans will react to Caitlin Dever, who will play Abby in the HBO live-action adaptation. Once the golf club comes down, a lot of people have jokingly said she needs to get off social media now, but looking at how awful the response was to Bailey, maybe it's worthwhile advice. The Grounded 2 documentary presents a behind-the-scenes look at The Last of Us Part 2's development, is included and includes a soft confirmation that Naughty Dog has a concept in mind for a third game. Again, sorry to kind of wreck what I just said about not spoiling things, but I remember as a journalist covering The Last of Us Part 2 when this game came out, and the absolutely ugly things that were coming out from the community, from fans, was next level, frankly, fucked up. And there would be some rather large YouTubers who would go on these huge vitriolic rants against, people involved in this. And they're like, oh, this is pandering, or this is that and the other thing, or this is a betrayal, and just all these weird talking points. And I'm like, look, man, not all stories have a happy ending. Tragedy hurts. And if you're connected to a piece of art, sometimes that stuff hurts when the creative people behind it decide to take it in a direction you don't necessarily expect. But that's the price you pay for consuming media. If you want to see what happens in that story, you have to let the creative people behind it tell it. And it's not always going to be all happy endings, sunshine, rainbows, and puppies. Otherwise, you're going to end up like that character from that Stephen King movie, Annie Wilkes, and, break people's legs because you don't like the way they're writing your character. And I'm sorry. I mean, I guess a contemporary example of this too is when people were pissed off about Star Wars, myself included. But I would never go so far as to go up to Kathleen Kennedy's house and threaten her, saying, "Oh man, you screwed up Emperor Palpatine. I'm gonna do something unspeakable to you." No, I can be angry and I can express that in an articulate manner, but I have to recognize. And I always think of the Ben Affleck quote from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Fictional characters. They aren't real. And this is not Ben speaking, but it was like, you're drawing a really weird relationship with this. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it sucks. But you have to look at what it's doing to the overall story. And yeah, I miss Joel too. I do. Because I know it's coming. And I can only imagine what the internet's going to be like when Pedro's character is eventually offed. And I imagine it'll be a lot more tragic. But I also wonder at the same time, they changed things in season 1. Will Druckmann continue with that story? And I can't see why he wouldn't. I really can't. There's no way they're going to back out of that. No matter how much of a dump truck full of money you're going to back up to this guy's house, Joel is going to die. It's just a matter of how this is going to affect the storyline of The Last of Us moving forward. And I think Bella is a strong enough actress she can carry it. I really do. She's already proven that. I mean, already being so young and so versatile, but also having a really strong writing team behind her and directors to push things forward. Now, will the show survive the backlash? I don't know. Because, again, people are weird and stupid. So, and I say that, and it's only a very small but very loud contingent of fans that are going to be very, very, very upset with this. I can already imagine the death threats that are going to come out, and holy crap, hopefully nothing gets leaked from the set, because I can only imagine the monstrous results that'll happen there. But I don't know. I mean, ultimately, when you consume media, you have to put yourself at a distance with this stuff. And yeah, there are some people who develop a weird parasocial relationship. There are people who take it entirely too far. I know there was one story I heard recently where someone spent like a ridiculous amount of money to insert them into like Hell of a Boss, Has Been Hotel, weird animation fan fiction, like porn or something. That's maybe taking it a little bit too far. That's like secret Russian billionaire money you never tell anybody about. Sure, I guess if that's your kink, go for it, I guess. But just don't be a weirdo with this stuff. I mean, let artists do what they're going to do. Realize it's not necessarily the artist it's not the performer who's writing it. And it's not them ad-libbing lines to say, hey, you know what'd be really cool if my head exploded? Or, you know what'd be really cool if we did a swerve you don't expect? Like, oh, if we're going to go with character A and I start romancing character B just because, like, no, it's not that. This has to go through like committees and people have to approve this stuff. It's just, no, just don't be fucking weird, guys. Really, just don't. So now normally you would hear a review here, and well, you're not getting that because we just don't have one this week, and that's just the way it is. So we're going to roll into the weird news this week, sort of the unusual things that just happened around the interwebs, such as it is and forever shall be. And this first piece of news is going to be coming courtesy of TMZ.com. And the Jimi Hendrix iconic headband has hit the auction block. And as far as headbands go, Jimmy's one isn't just a piece of fabric, it's a massive chapter of pop culture history, and bidders are now shelling out some serious dollars to get their hands on it. Heritage Auctions has listed a piece of clothing memorabilia that Jimmy wore to a slate of legendary performances in the 60s, and so far the bidding wars have pushed the price tag to $13,500, and it's estimated to fetch up to $40,000. Jimmy's legendary red, blue, and white headgear graced the stage during his packed-out performances starting at the Philmont East in New York City in 1969 to Memphis, Tennessee in 1970. And if that ain't enough to lure bidders, there's an extra layer of value woven into the particular headband. He wore it for his live performances of Machine Gun on New Year's Day 1970. You know, the one famously declared the most brilliant emotional display of virtuosic electric guitar playing I've ever seen by concert promoter Bill Graham. In fact, last year, Rolling Stones dubbed him the greatest guitarist of all time because of that very performance. Securing a piece of Jimmy's signature style isn't exactly budget-friendly, but you have a few more weeks to break open the piggy bank before bidding ends. I'm going to do a live update here on the show, and we're going to see if I can find the Heritage Auctions right now. As of right now, bidding is at $14,500. And my take on this: why wasn't this donated to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or the Smithsonian? And I always think of that famous line from Indiana Jones. I want to say in not Last Crusade. Maybe it is. Where Harrison Ford, it belongs in a museum. And it does. Why is this piece of literal history something that has been photographed countless times, has been seen by billions at this point, going to end up in some private collector's, again, weird collection sitting, I don't know, in like some bunker somewhere? Like, I don't want this to sit in a drawer or even on a weird mannequin. And okay, this makes me think of the scene again, to bring this back to The Last of Us. Pedro Pascal starred in a movie with Nick Cage. I think it's called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Pretty sure that's what it is. Either way, amazing movie. And Pascal's character has this shrine to Nick Cage. He even has like the suit he wore in Face Off. He has the exact guns from that movie and all these weird bits of memorabilia. And it's weird to hear me say this, because I would love to have a set of Terry English armor from Aliens. Like, yeah, would I love to have, you know, Vasquez's chest plate and her like fatigues and the actual smart gun and all that shit? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Where am I going to put it? And number two, I don't know. I feel like there's certain pieces of historical and pop culture significance that just don't belong in a private collection, that should belong to the collective people of planet Earth. And I think this is one of those pieces where I feel very, very, very strongly like this shouldn't just end up in some rando's thing. I mean, if you want to own one of the Beatles guitars, like just one random one that they may have played once at like a show in, I don't know, Albany, New York, yeah, sure, go ahead. But if it was like, I don't know, the Ed Sullivan guitar or some bullshit, yeah, sure, that belongs in a museum. And I always think there's this fine line between what can be privately owned and what should be displayed. But then again, I guess there's probably a whole new conversation. Well, who kind of benefits from it, who's profiting from it, and ultimately it ends in a conversation that'll make nobody happy. But I don't know. Like I said, this is just one of those things where I really think it belongs to us, the people. And I hope this doesn't go to some weirdo who's going to just like throw it behind glass and nobody ever sees it again. It would be great if, like, I don't know, Dave Grohl or some musician who is really liked by people buys it and then donates it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something. See, that's what I'd like to see happen. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I'm sure we'll follow up on this story when it ends in a few weeks. I'm sure it'll pop up in my news cycle. But yeah, so there's that. And then our final story this week. This was so bizarre because I saw the aftermath of this, but I didn't see the initial thing that sparked this. So this story comes courtesy of NPR, so National Public Radio. And Elmo takes a turn as a therapist after asking, "How's everybody doing?" At first glance, it might have looked like a run-of-the-mill social media check-in. How everybody doing? But the message came from Elmo, the furry red friend, the kids, Muppets, and everyone else. And Elmo is known on Sesame Street and beyond for his capacity to care. So the response flooded in on X and Instagram, Threads and Facebook, and conversations sparked on Reddit and elsewhere. People unburdened themselves, and Elmo took it all in. On X alone, Elmo's question received over 180 million views by middle day last Wednesday. Stupid thing. Get off my screen. Responses to Elmo on Friday and Monday differ wildly. One of Elmo's earliest check-in messages was posted on Threads, where Elmo asked last Friday how people were doing. Quote, "Just on my way to buy some balsamic vinegar," came one popular reply, to which Elmo replied, "Elmo hopes it's yummy." "I'm doing okay. Hope you are too," said another commenter, getting the reply, "Elmo loves you." Other notes wished everyone a happy Friday, but then the weekend was over, and Elmo echoed the question on X and other platforms on Monday, where things took a turn. "Not well, Elmo. They've done well, raised rent, and everybody acting at this point like I'm coming back to live with you on Sesame Street. Baby girl, wow, ratty," told Elmo on Facebook. "Elmo would love that. Hashtag neighbor," the Muppet responded. "Elmo, I'm having a rough time. Love you, though." Weatherwoman 1223 or 1213 said on Instagram, "Elmo hopes you are doing okay. Elmo loves you today and every day," he replied. On X, people aired litanies of personal and relationship problems, and more general angst. They spoke about being tired, broke, and unsure how to improve things and feeling disconnected from others. A user named Becky said on the massive responses, here, "Trauma dumping so hard on Elmo, the official Sesame Street account, had the tweet out mental health resources, adding, God help us." A recurring theme also popped up as adults remarked on how affirming it was to connect with Elmo and his friends. "All the love to Sesame Street team for still taking care of us, all of us grown children," a commenter wrote on Instagram. "We may be chronologically outside the demographic, but we never really left the street, thank you." President Biden weighed in late on Thursday, stating, "Our friend Elmo is right. We have to be there for each other, offer our help to a neighbor in need, and above all else, ask for help when we need it." The article continues, "Is Elmo a gifted therapist?" In response to this week, and let's be honest, most of the comments since he was introduced in the 1980s, Elmo has shown that he exemplifies three of the most important attributes of a therapist as defined by influential 20th century psychologist Carl Rogers, and the driving force behind person-centered therapy. Rogers' list starts by having congruence, meaning authentically, and genuineness, being real. The other two core qualities for a therapist, he said, are acceptance that comes from unconditional positive regard and empathy that comes from understanding another person. While Elmo hasn't been able to reply to every message on his accounts, his responses winning praise. Considering his answers to a student on Instagram who told him this week, "I don't want to go to class, Elmo. I need words of encouragement." "You can do it. Try to make a new friend today," Elmo told the student. "That will make class extra fun, and tomorrow you will be extra excited to see them." To that, another user replied, "Bro, that's actually such good advice, lol." In many cases, commenters on the replies showed sharing positive messages and practical advice with each other, encouraging people where they are struggling to keep sharing and working to make things better. There are words we all need to say and messages we need to hear. And in one short message, Elmo reminded us to make time for each other and listen. Wow. Elmo is glad he asked, Elmo said on Tuesday. As responses to his question continued to pour in, Elmo learned that it is important to ask a friend how they are doing. Elmo will check in again soon, friends. Elmo loves you. # emotional well-being. And then I'm just going to stop the article there. Sometimes social media accounts can really do something important. And I say important because it's a Muppet. But at the same time, it is important to check in on your friends. And sometimes I'm not the greatest for doing that myself. And I genuinely care. And when I post things on social media, so many of you, so many, check in and reply and are very authentic and are very, 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 very real with me. And I love you for it. And I think when they talked about trauma dumping, sometimes it's okay. I know there was a post last year where somebody had wrote, Facebook isn't a journal. And I would disagree. I would say being able to connect with someone, even if it's virtually, is important, because we live in such an era of disconnectivity. Yes, we exist in an area of Zoom and Microsoft Teams and X and Threads and Twitter and Reddit and TikTok and Snapchat and all these ads, or apps rather, but do we really know each other? And sometimes a simple check-in is enough. Like, for example, I have multiple Facebook threads where I chat with other members of the TWIG team, and I'm not always the most responsive because I'm always so absorbed in doing the thing in my community. Other times I'm so emotionally worn out, I just can't. And I remember talking with Ken last night saying, there are days, Ken, where it feels like I'm being held together with popsicle sticks and duct tape. And he's like, I know you've got a lot of things going on. And just know that we're here for you. And it's important to have, I'm actually kind of getting emotional about this. Wow. It's important to have those conversations with people in your life. Just check in now and again, see how they're doing. I'm not saying you have to check in every single day, but now and again. There was another post I saw on Facebook, and this actually kind of made me think about the whole Elmo thing. And it was, don't punish people when they're trying. You might be saying, well, what do you mean? Okay, now we've all had that example where you're like, well, look who finally showed up. Well, thanks for returning my text. You're negatively reinforcing positive behavior. And I had something happen in my life last year, and I don't want to get into the specifics of it, where I wasn't as good of a communicator as I should have been. But when I did check in, it was genuinely like, okay, I've got the time. I want to see what's up, what's going on. And while that relationship couldn't be repaired, I said to them as our final words, I love you. My door will always be open, and you will be welcome back without judgment. You will always have a place in my life. And while that person is gone, I wish them good luck, good journey, and good fortune. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned here. And I'm grateful for those of you that do check in with me via Facebook. Sometimes I'm not always the best at responding to those kind of messages, but Elmo's right. We need to be there for each other. And whether the politics of what you believe are good or bad about President Biden, for example, his response of be there for each other, understand, but also understand that there are mental health resources out there for you as well. If it's beyond just checking in, like for example, I've been very open with my struggles with mental health, and I see a therapist now. Has it been helping? I don't know. I think on some levels, it's maybe opened up some new wounds, but I'm learning to process them, I think, and just recognizing what that does to me moving forward. And that's good. At least I'm trying to emotionally grow. But I think Elmo's got some solid advice. Be good to each other. Listen to each other. And one of the things that I think, I didn't learn it directly from Elmo, but I think a lot of people like about me as a person is I'm very genuine with people. I love people. I really do. I like to hear from you. I'm usually very excited to see you, and I want to know what's going on. I love people. I love connection. And when I got my indigenous name, Odezi Bing, which is Heart of the River, that means community. That means connection. And maybe that's why this Elmo story is hitting me a little bit harder than I thought it would. And again, here I am just waxing philosophical here on the main show. I'm sure Alex would make fun of me, but I don't know. Maybe that's just it. Maybe that's the power of a red furry Muppet to reinforce connection with people. I guess the only other thing I was going to mention is there was a segment on the Today Show. I want to say it was, and the guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David, reaches out and like strangles Elmo after this has happened, and he's like, I had to do it. Somebody had to do it. And the performer who was doing Elmo just rolled with it. Seriously, go look this up on YouTube. Type in like Larry David Elmo and you'll see what I mean. As far as I know, it wasn't a bit, but yeah, it was just, that's a really classy response. And that is funny. And Larry David's like, I'm sorry, Elmo. And Elmo, I think, was like, that's okay, David. Everybody gets frustrated. I hope you're okay. And again, that is a class act to be able to react in that moment. So anyway, guys, we're going to take our final break here on ThisWeekInGeek.net for this week. And we're going to take a listen to Alex and see what he has for us in store this week. So we'll be back, guys, right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Alex, the producer here, and our friends over at OnePlus sent a care package, as you've probably heard in previous reviews in the last week or so, for the OnePlus 12, as well as some accessories for it, and the OnePlus 12R, which should either have the review out or coming out very soon as well. Now, this is a quick review of the OnePlus AIRVOOC, I believe that's how it's pronounced from everything I've seen, 50-watt wireless charger. Now, this is sold separately, and it's obviously made for AIRVOOC, I believe, is their custom format of power delivery. You know, there's a few out there that go beyond the spec of what regular power delivery is, and that is the OnePlus version. Now, it is a wireless charger that it's in like the standing orientation, sort of like on like an easel type of thing. And the reason for that is there's a big honking fan in the base of it, because it's got to make sure it can stay cool when it's delivering 50 watts of power. And I can say this, you know, it's cool because a lot of wireless chargers are 10 or 15 watts. And sometimes even the 15 watt ones, if you don't get the right wall adapter or cables, there'll be like a whine or a hum, and it's terrifying. Even though it's safe, it'll be weird. None of that happens here. It's whisper quiet, at least my unit is. And what you do, I was like, how do I get a right charger to use with this? And then I went, stupid me. The OnePlus 12 comes with that 80 watt charger. That's like their their high end charger that uses that power delivery. That's what I should be using with it. So plug it in, works perfect. Yes, it got 50 watts, and obviously you can do really smart things with the OnePlus 12 with it. And obviously this is a charger. It'll work with other wireless devices. It just won't work with that mode, with that high current mode that is made for the AIRVOOC. Now, as far as with the OnePlus 12, when I plug it in, when I set it on the stand for it, there's options on the phone for power saving. Like, do you want to charge that quickly? Like, if you need to charge that quickly, you can have it set so like during the day, the phone will auto communicate with it so that it gets really fast charging, so that if you need to have it on the go, like put it on your desk at work and you need it charged really quickly. Or you can have it set so that like at nighttime when it's plugged in, it will trickle charge at a way lower power, knowing that you're going to be sleeping for like 6 to 8 hours. And in doing that, it saves the battery. Very smart stuff. So I'm pretty impressed with it. It uses USB-C as an input on it. Now, it can take 5 volts, 4 amps. It does 5 volts, 4 amps, 9 volts, 2 amps, 10 volts, 6.5 amps, 11 volts, 7.3, 20 volt, 3.25. And that's basically, it says to get to that 50 watt max, you need to use a charger and cable. Very important to also use a cable. Using a very cheap cable from Amazon, sometimes they're only rated for up to 30 watts, or in some cases 60. So you make sure that you buy one that, like a USB-C cable that is rated for, I would say, at least 60 watt. because you don't want, to burn your cable out. So you're going to be having to spend a little bit of money on those if you want a longer USB-C cable than what you came with your phone, if it's rated for that. But, expect to spend $15-20 on a good, decent cable, at least, that can do, at least 50 watts of safe power delivery through it. And then it says here, the charger cable, they're saying, that you need to have at least a 65 watt power delivery or 80 watt Super VOOC or above wall charger for it to communicate at that wattage properly. So if you don't have that, make sure that it's auto intelligent, but make sure that you should have that. But if not, you can charge at a slower speed. Just you won't get that full 50 watts out of it. The build quality on the actual wireless charger is very good. It's a rugged plastic, a very good quality fan. I can see inside of it. It does come with a USB-A to Type-C cable, like a little tiny one, but the idea is you should be using a proper wall charger that is with a good quality cable plugged into it, because you're not likely, unless you're at a desk, to be able to use like a 3-foot cable. If you want to get like a 6 or 10-foot cable to plug it in, you're gonna want to make sure that it's rated well. So look up the specs on there, and then pick it up to go with it. It is very, very good as far as keeping the heat off. My worry was, is it going to heat my phone up? The answer was no. Surprisingly not, even when fast charging. And also, that little fan on the bottom was keeping the unit cool, because the last thing you want is for its own electronics to overheat when it's doing power transfer to it. So it's a really good design. It's nice and clean, and doesn't take up much space on a shelf at all. I thought maybe there'd be like a charging base or something on the back to charge wireless, the buds that I got from them. Not the case. It's just basically a spot to house the electronics and have the big honkin', I think it's like a 40 or 60 millimeter fan. Maybe it's an 80 millimeter fan. It's basically like a computer case fan inside of there, blowing the air on it to make sure that it doesn't overheat. So I can say that, that it's not blowing smoke up you. It's legit a real, 50 watt charger if your phone and device is rated for that. But make sure that you're either, if you got a OnePlus device, that you're using the charger that came with it, because that's going to be rated for that kind of, it's rated for 80 watts on its own. Or if you get like a good wireless, a good GaN, gallium nitrate charger that can do power delivery to like 65, 80, 100 watts. If you use one of them with it, it should auto communicate, no problem. I did that with a couple devices that I have. I have some from Ugreen and from Anchor that were lying around, that 65 watt and an 80 watt, and both of them work just as fine too. But obviously the one that comes with the OnePlus phone, if you've got the OnePlus phone, is the one to use for that. But it does work with other things. So keep in mind, if you don't have a OnePlus phone, but you're still interested in a charger that's really good, you can still pick one up, retailing for $70 Canadian. It's actually a good deal, considering you'd spend easily $100 or more on another brand of that quality that can charge, I guess. Like, for instance, it can charge the OnePlus 12 phone that I have, 50% of its battery from like down at like 5% up to 50% in 23 minutes. And in less than an hour, you can have 100% charge from like basically nothing all the way up. That's pretty insane for a wireless charger. So keep that in mind. Something to look at if you are picking up a OnePlus phone. It's pretty much a no-brainer to pick this up, so you have something at least at your desk or somewhere else for when you don't want to have be tethered to a wire directly yourself. And if you're somebody who isn't necessarily getting a OnePlus phone right now, but you are looking for a good, high-quality wireless charger, then you might want to check out the OnePlus AIRVOOC 50W charger. So keep that in mind. Links in the description for the show. You might want to check it out. I'm pretty impressed so far with everything that OnePlus has sent us.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net, and big thank you for joining me on this solo edition of the show. And again, I didn't expect what happened when I read with that last story, and sometimes that happens here on the show. I get really invested in a story, and it hits you in just the right place. So again, I hope you'll reflect upon what Elmo has said and just How are you doing? And I get a lot of fan mail on some of my accounts. So if you ever just want to reach out and just have a conversation or just check in, feel free. And the easiest way to do that is feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net, or you can reach out to me on the social medias, which is at ThisWeekInGeek, at Birdman Dodd, across all socials. And if I can respond, and if you're not a jerk, I'll gladly chat with you. If I'm a couple days in delaying, just, I've seen your message. I will do my best to get back to you. But hey, if it helps you unload or whatever you got to do, I'm not a qualified therapist, but Birdman cares. And maybe that'll be the big message kind of going forward into 2024. Let's do something. So, ultimately next time here on the show, you'll have me and Alex back. I know I will probably not be around on the Valentine's Day weekend show. Again, I'm still trying to figure that out. I know me and Blair and our friend Jordan are going to be playing some Pokemon Go at the end of the month for the really big global Sinnoh tour. So Alex will be alone on that one, but that's okay. That's, my once a quarter where I really get out and just grind hard for a few days. And I guess I've talked about this on socials, but I guess I'll talk about it here for just a moment. So later on this spring/summer, once my wheelchair gets fixed and we get all that bullshit dealt with, I'm going to do a 24-hour challenge. And my buddy Liam's helping me figure out the logistics of this right now. We're going to play 24 hours of Pokemon Go. We're going to have multiple battery banks. We're going to get out my chair. We're going to play in the car. We're going to do a bunch of Go Battle League. And we're going to play for 24 hours and see what we can do in terms of experience and Stardust and Shinies, and just start stocking up. So I'm going to start figuring out what that process looks like now, and, have 24 hours of like eggs and star pieces and all this stuff, and just start saving up now. Cause I think this could be a lot of really fun. And if I could do 24 raids, so 1 raid per hour, doesn't matter what it is. I know I've got the remote raid limit, so I'd have to do like a bunch during the daytime before raids stop popping at night, sort of thing. Do as many rocket grunts as I can, as many leaders as I can, because I've got max item storage, I've got max Pokemon storage, and just kind of prepare my account for this and see what can be done. I think this could be a lot of fun content. I do want to chronicle it on TikTok. Maybe I'll throw up a supercut on YouTube. I guess I'd have to find an editor to help me do this. I mean, this might be a bigger project than I think it might be. But Pokedaxi, who's the content creator that I watched, said he'd be very curious to check it out. And this could be a really huge undertaking. And I'm not saying I would ever become a full-time Pokemon Go content creator, because I don't know what that game's going to look like in like a year or two. And I certainly wouldn't abandon TWIG for that, but that might be really, really, really fun. Like tremendous amounts of fun. I have recorded a new botched roll, which I gave to Alex. So whenever he puts that out, great. I'm hoping it'll be soon. I'm going to record another one talking about con games. Actually, I just had that thought while I was writing this episode here. So hopefully I'll get that all done in the next little bit. But anyway, guys, so I'm going to take off for the day. I'm going to go take myself out to the movies for a little bit of self-care. And then I got to prepare for some loose cannon this week. And I got some writing projects, because Birdman got to get them bills paid and get that wheelchair fixed. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a fantastic week. Like I said, you can always feel free to reach out to any of us on social media. We would love to hear from you. You know the drill. Feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net, Mike at ThisWeekInGeek.net, or any of the social medias that we have posted. So guys, until next time, and I mean this with all sincerity, be excellent to each other. Do something great and take Elmo's advice. Go make a new friend. Go do something you didn't expect you were going to do this week. So anyway, guys, we'll catch you next week right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
Lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.